I think a lot of times we expect coding to be a lot like this, when in reality, it's a lot more like this. I mean, even though it might not look like it at first, coding and developing can really take a load on you mentally. And yes, of course, there's gonna be moments where you just look at your monitor and you say,
I'm gonna break my monitor, I swear.
But as a CS student, you're told to grind. Classes, assignments, projects, internships, the hustle is almost a requirement. But what happens when you just stop caring? When you dread of opening your laptop and writing a single line of code? That's developer burnout. And it's a trap. Also, let's say hi to our little friend who wanted to join this video today. I think the first step in curing developer burnout is to actually realize that you're burned out. I think a lot of people don't even notice that they've burnt out on something. And I think this comes from the hustle culture that we're all surrounded by. The work harder, sleep when you're dead, sleep when I'm dead. That's very popular around Instagram, TikTok, and other social medias. But I think this is actually extremely counterproductive, especially when coding stops being fun. I mean, we all got into this major for a reason. So when we suddenly lose the passion for it, that should already alert us that there's a red flag going on. And I think accepting that someone has burnt out is a lot more productive than just pushing through it. Because a lot of the times when you try to combat that burnout, it ends up either not working or just straight up being worse. And that's probably why you came to this video. Okay, so you've realized you're burned out. What do you actually do? I think for immediate relief, these are the 20% of things you can do to get 80% back on track. I'm a big fan of the Pareto principle. Number one is to just simply step away from the computer. Seriously, you need to do something that is completely unrelated to coding, which means physically getting up from your computer and leaving. This will give your mind a break and a chance to separate yourself from what's causing you stress in the moment. Doing a physical activity like walking, running, sprinting, or any sort of cardio is extremely beneficial in this moment. Remember, endorphins are your friends. They're gonna make you feel 10 times better. This is actually what I do a lot of times if I'm feeling extremely overwhelmed. I like to just go outside and go on a walk with no music, no AirPods, nothing on me. And I really do feel like it helps me clear my head. It gives me a space where I can let my thoughts run freely and I can just kind of sort through them. And I honestly end up walking for quite a long time just so I can really sort through my thoughts and work out my next plan of action. I think especially in today's modern age, we're so distracted by notifications. I mean, it just happened. I think, oh my God, who is interrupting me? That it's kind of difficult to just find a moment to really sit down and think. Our brain is like main memory. If there's too much allocated space, then we're just gonna crash. So we need to kind of offload that space, and practicing mindfulness is a great way for you to do that. And this could be anything like meditation, cooking a simple meal, reading an easy book. I know the average book talks reading level is about 3rd grade, so those are perfect. And then most importantly, rest. And I don't mean to go and doom scroll on social media or play 2 hours of video games, because this is not resting. I mean, your brain is probably more activated in those moments than if you just went out on a walk. What I mean is to actually either sleep, nap, or do some other kind of deep rest. This is where your body will literally regenerate and allow you to go ahead and wake up feeling refreshed and having a more clear mind. And then what I would do is honestly take a few days of break. And I know this is something not everyone can do, especially if you're right in the middle of midterms or finals and you have classes going on, or even if you have an internship or work and you can't just call off. But still, after those responsibilities, just take a few days for yourself, doing everything that we've just covered. This may feel counterintuitive, but it would literally reset your mind so that you can come back a few days later with new perspectives and honestly more excitement about developing. So let's recap. You've stepped away from your computer, gone on a walk, done some kind of mindfulness activity, and most importantly, slept and hopefully took a few days off. And now you're ready to dive back in. But how do we make sure that the same thing doesn't happen again? So here's how you prevent burnout in the first place, or at least see it coming. What I would do during those days of rest is to get a piece of paper, a pen, and just start writing down what you think the root cause of the burnout was. And I want you to do this in physical pen and paper because there's something really special about putting your thoughts into physical writing. It's more therapeutic, and honestly, it's really satisfying holding the paper later and seeing how much you wrote. And again, you're supposed to stay away from your computer anyways. Now, this is the part where you have to be brutally honest with yourself. And unfortunately, I cannot give you the answer for your burnout, but it could be due to the workload. Maybe you had too much on your plate and it was just stressing you out, or were just bothered by unrealistic deadlines. Or maybe it was the opposite. Maybe it was boring work that challenge didn't instill your passion, or made you feel like you were not learning. I know when I had my burnout period with pretty much all of my hobbies, it was generally due to putting so much on my plate that I was overwhelmed. I honestly used to wake up every day and just 1,000 different things were in the back of my mind. I have this video to make, and I have this coding project I haven't done. Oh, and this course. Oh, but also this nonprofit. Everything clouded my mind all at once that it was super difficult stepping away and taking a break. That just made the main memory of my brain go into complete overdrive. Imagine how much more productive and efficient you would be if you could just wipe away all that RAM and start fresh. This is why if you have 1,000 different deadlines or 4 million different projects that you're working on, my biggest tip is to genuinely pick the one that's most urgent, lock yourself in a room, and just do it. I swear to God, this is the best thing I've ever done. I remember when I was directing a nonprofit in my last year of high school, I procrastinated doing the final JavaScript section for ages. What should have been done before graduation ended up taking all the way to the start of college. Now imagine all those months and the entire summer where I was just constantly stressed by this nagging feeling of, oh, I have a nonprofit to finish. I have a course to finish. Imagine how much more I would have enjoyed my summer and all the months beforehand if I had just done the work. And the crazy thing is, it wasn't even that much work. I mean, I literally sat down and uploaded the final piece of the course, 1/3 of the course, in a matter of days. So you may really want to consider that, am I burnt out, or do I just have way too much on my plate? And if the latter is your problem, then you have to write down all your tasks, find the most urgent ones, and just get to work. I promise you will feel 100 times better after you do that. I like to think of it almost like a dam. If something's like clogging the dam, then the water won't pass through. But as soon as you finish at least one task, that's kind of like a little hole in the dam. And then you do another one and another one. And eventually the dam just explodes and you're finally able to reach your full potential. Okay, so you're tackling all your projects and hopefully you've kind of dwindled down on that list and are ready to start back up in developing. This is where I think passion projects really shine, especially to get your passion back up. For example, I hadn't really coded anything in JavaScript for a while, so I made this simple memory game just to freshen up on some concepts. And honestly, I had a blast. It really reminded me why I started coding in the first place, and just problem solving and finding a solution and just seeing something that works and is usable is really satisfying. So also write down some passion projects that you've been thinking of or you want to go ahead and try, because I feel like those are perfect for getting your passion back up. And if you need an idea, check out this video where I build a hamburger order form in plain HTML, which is perfect for beginners who are just starting out or want to freshen up on their HTML skills. There's also another thing that I think can lead to burnout, and that's perfectionism. Struggling on every minute topic and every minuscule detail is exhausting. For example, in a garden, you don't look at each individual leaf. That would be absurd. You just water the plants, cut the big bushes, and then you're done. You're not gonna go to every individual blade of grass and make sure that it's perfect. So why would you do that in your code? And remember, if trillion-dollar companies like Apple and Microsoft can make mistakes, as we can see in the new macOS, I think you can let yourself slide a little bit. Another aspect I didn't really touch on is comparing yourself to others and the general anxiety that can cause to someone. For me, I consider myself still pretty young. I'm 17 years old, I just started college, and yet I have a really hard time not comparing myself to others. Especially when I see 19 and 18-year-olds, or even people my age or younger, be more successful, have more contributions on their GitHub, have an impeccable resume, being at Ivy League colleges, or starting million-dollar startups. It genuinely feels like I'm behind on everything. If I could just stop comparing myself to others and instead focus on improving things about myself, I think I would be a lot more happy in the accomplishments I've had so far. I find that in these situations, an outside perspective really does help. And therapy can be a great way to zoom out and see how someone else sees it. Thankfully, this video is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is on a mission to make starting therapy easier. They'll connect you with a licensed therapist who is trained to give you helpful, unbiased advice. Fill out a questionnaire and you'll be matched with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. And you can easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost if it's not the right fit. BetterHelp accepts both HSA and FSA cards, making it even easier to prioritize your mental health. In 2024 alone, over 137,000 people use their HSA or FSA benefits for therapy through BetterHelp. So be sure to use yours before they expire. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/geodev and get 10% off your first month of therapy. Thank you so much, BetterHelp, for supporting the channel. Now back to the video. So we already talked about how giant workloads can cause burnout in someone. So if you're that person, how do you even manage it? Now, I'm not a productivity guru yet, but here are some tips that have at least helped me make some progress. The 2-minute rule. I remember when I had my videos due for my nonprofit, I sat down and I just started thinking, if I had done a little work, even 5 minutes of work every day thus far, I would have probably finished this course ages ago. So I sat down and I told myself I would do work for only 2 minutes. And I feel like that breaks down the barrier of having to start, because all we see is the giant mountain ahead of us, but it's pretty easy to take the first 2 steps. And that's exactly what happened. I took the first 2 steps. So maybe I opened the document to write my script. And now imagine if you get into the habit of just doing a few steps every single day. Eventually, what was once that giant mountain that you dreaded becomes these simple steps that the more you do them, the closer you'll get to it. And very similar to this is break down large tasks into more manageable ones. So I told myself, instead of completing the course, which is a giant task, I mean, you can't even comprehend what that even means. I said, okay, let me write the video scripts for lesson 1, 2, 3, etc. And even then, I made individual checklists to write what I needed to do to complete a lesson. So I said, write the script, finish the script, start recording, record the B-roll, record the voiceover, start editing, edit the intro, edit the main lesson, edit the outro, publish it on the website. Having a dozen of small tasks is a lot more manageable and also a lot more organized than having one giant complete lesson. Because whereas in the giant one, you're kind of confused where to even begin, you already have an actionable plan in the dozens of small tasks. So if you're stuck on something big, try to break it down as much as you can. Do only 2 minutes of it to get yourself in the flow, because once you're in that deep focus mode, then you're golden. And I'm telling you, when the floodgates open, it'll feel so satisfying, because you go from feeling like a snail's pace to exponential growth. And then you'll have such a big weight lifted off your shoulder that you'll remember, wow, this is how it's like to live peacefully. No, but really having a task that you have to do constantly nagging at you is one of the absolute worst feelings ever. I mean, I am so glad of those 2 days. I just locked myself in my room and did it, because those 2 days, which, I mean, if we really think about it, it's only 2 days. Like, it's nothing crazy like a full week of work where I didn't eat, I didn't do anything but work. It was literally just a few hours in 2 days. Would have saved me months of stress and just feeling bad about myself and that nagging feeling in the back of my mind that I have something to do. But what if you try the 2 minutes and you're still kind of not getting in the flow? You just really don't feel like doing it, you're unmotivated. Then I think the Pomodoro technique is another great way to at least start a task. I think everyone is aware with the Pomodoro technique, but basically you put a timer for a set amount of time and a small break in between. And then after 4 or whatever many repetitions you choose, you have a big break. I think this is a great technique if you want to start the work, but I feel like it kind of distracts you once you're really in the zone. I still do have to give it credit because it literally carried me during my EE and my IAs and IB. But just know that having an interrupted block of time allocated to deep work is a lot more productive. And so that's where the next tip comes into play, is actually time blocking. I literally have a time block for recording this video because I know that if I didn't plan it out, it would have never happened. I'm just the type of person that if I don't have a schedule in front of me, something will find my attention and grab it and never let go. So definitely time block the time that you want to start coding, or you want to work on a passion project, or even assignments for class. It'll just make your day a lot more scheduled, and it will tell your mind to calm down because we already have a plan for what's ahead. And so it's not constantly struggling and juggling 5 million things at once, asking itself, okay, when are we gonna do this or that? And just being confused. That's also why you need, this is a need with a capital N, some sort of task manager or to-do list. Keeping everything in your brain is a great way to use all the RAM. And again, we want to get rid of as much RAM as possible so that our brain can be clear and refreshed. So get something like the Reminders app or just the Notes app and just vomit literally every single task on there. The point right now is not to organize it, it's just to get it from here to somewhere that you can access later. That will tell your brain to calm down. It doesn't have to hold 5 million thoughts together. It can just relax and plan it out later. And then once you do plan it out, you'll feel much more confident and a lot less stressed because you know exactly what you have to do and when. Now, the absolute best tip I can give you for developer burnout is re-engage with the joy of coding. Again, we all came into this field for a reason. Honestly, whether it be for money or you genuinely enjoy it, just remember your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you starting? There must be some aspect to this that you genuinely enjoy, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. For example, I love when I have to come up with a problem and I find a solution and I try it and it genuinely works. But even more so, I like having a physical, well, I guess digital product that I can show people. So this is where personal projects really do shine. Working on something for yourself that you can showcase to others is a great way to really re-embrace coding and kind of conditioning yourself that this is a positive thing to do that brings you joy and not stress and frustration, etc. Another way to make it fun is to also just try something new. If you're bored of JavaScript, go to a different language. Look at React or other JavaScript frameworks like Angular, Vue, or Svelte, or maybe try TypeScript, or step it back up and go revisit CSS or more HTML. It has a lot of tags that you probably don't know about. And then another great tip is to get some friends in your same field and just spend time with them, see what they're working on. But they also don't have to be in the same field as you. Just having some people to spend time with and just kind of have fun, be in a more positive, higher frequency energy, if you believe in that, is a great way to set your mind for success. And I know I personally struggle with meeting people in the same field as me. So let me know if you'd like to see some kind of coding community for channel viewers. Like, that'd be a really cool thing to do. I know how much it sucks to just be in a rut and burnt out and not even wanting to think of code. But just let me tell you, the cliche phrase, it really does get better if you work for it. Of course, if you just lay down and doom scroll and never go outside, lock yourself in your room, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to cope with that, rather than if you stayed active and surrounded yourself by positive people and really tried your best to try to engage or reset. Let me know down below some of your tips to deal with developer burnout, or also just your experiences with it. I know that seeing other people being in the same boat really helps out. So definitely share your stories down below. I wish you the best. I know you can do it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.